This is Vicki Robinson. I'm a designer at scrapbookgraphics.com, and today I wanted to share with you a productivity tip that I think you're going to find really useful. If you're like me, once you finish working on a kit, you realize you have files all over your hard drive. Maybe you've created a folder for the product that you're working on, but you have PSD files and you have preview files and you have layouts from your CTs, just a bunch of random things that are sort of all in one folder and a little difficult to find. I worked that way for a very long time, and I realized that really wasn't working for me. I would try when I was finished with a product to try to go back in and organize my files, and I found I was too busy and I was done with it and on to the next thing. But then someone turned me on to a piece of software that really changed the way that I worked, and it has cut a tremendous amount of time off my product creation process, and I wanted to share that with you today. The product is called Post Haste. It's by digitalrebellion.com. And let me just make this really clear. I have no affiliation whatsoever with Post Haste. This is just a piece of software that someone turned me on to a couple of years ago, and I've been using it ever since. And I think that it is so cool that you're going to want to use it too. It's available for both the Mac and the PC. And here's the kicker. It doesn't cost a dime. You don't even have to register on their site to download this product. They make other kinds of productivity products where they make their money, but this is just a freebie, maybe just to sell you on their other products, which I've never even looked at. But I tell you, this was well worth the couple of minutes it took me to figure out how to work this. And let me show you what I mean by that. I had to create a new folder in my work in progress folder that has the name of my new kit, and I had it create for me all the subfolders of the different kinds of content I'm going to have for this particular kit. So I'm going to have I will have a shop ad and maybe some social media ads that I need to create for this. I have a folder for my CT pages, my previews, and inside my previews folder I've got pre-populated for me a master background preview that I'm going to use for this kit. Notice that these previews are already named here with my kit name, and this is my product preview. I have a PSD folder as well. In my case they're TIFFs, but with a master blank TIFF document that is called backgrounds and one that's called elements, and I'll show you why I did that. And I have a folder which will contain my elements that's ready to be zipped. So it's got my store naming convention, the file name, the product name, and that it's backgrounds. The same thing for the kit elements. And it has a blank product description, rich text document that I'll use to type in my product description so I can just copy it into my store. And also it has a zip file of my TOU all ready to go. Now, let me show you how long it took me to create that. Open up Post Haste. I'm on the New Projects tab. I'm going to give this project a name. We're going to call this Vicki's Happy Place. And create project. And voila! Vicki's Happy Place. And when we open up Vicki's Happy Place, we can see here are all of those folders. My social media template with my kit name pre-populated and all those folders I just showed you. How cool is that? Let's go into the PSDs, because I told you previously that I created a blank file, a TIFF file, or you could do a PSD file that has one for backgrounds and one for elements. And I'll show you actually why I did that and how you'd use it. I'm just going to double click on it. It's going to open up in Photoshop. Let's just create a custom shape, and we'll just do an arrow here. Now I'm going to trim that down. And by the way, I use a Wacom tablet, an Intuos Pro, and if any of you are interested in how I set up these keys to do all these actions for me, I'll be happy to do a different tutorial if there's enough interest. Anyway, here's my trimmed down arrow. Now I'm going to do File, Save As, And remember, this is my element, so I'm going to navigate to my elements folder. So I'm coming into Vicky's Happy Place and then into the elements folder. And because I already created this blank folder, it even already knows the name of the element I'm going to save. Of course, I need to change it to a PNG. And then I'm just going to add, I called it EL dash whatever. I just number my elements. So I'm just going to insert a 1 in here, and I'm going to save my ping file. And then what I would do, if this was a special element that I'd worked on a long time and had a lot of modifications to it and layers and stuff, I would also save this as a TIFF file so that if I need to go back and change it, so I can do that. I'm just going to come into Save As, and then I'm going to come into, didn't want to do that. I'm going to come into my Happy Place again and come into the PSD files, and then I would back and name this element 01 TIFF so that if I need to fix that later on, I can do that. Isn't that cool? If you can see a benefit to using Post Haste, stay tuned and I will show you the how you actually make that happen. It takes a couple of minutes, invest a little time to set it up, but once you set it up, you're golden, and it'll take you just a few minutes to create your projects going forward. Let me show you that now. Before we do any work in Post Haste itself, we have a little pre-work to do, and that is to gather up all the files and templates that you want Post Haste to use when it creates a product folder for you. I gathered everything together just for my own sanity into a folder called Post Haste. Here you're going to want to put things like any ad templates that you want to use, your product previews. I have one for the paper template I use most often, one for my product preview. Remember, I showed you a minute ago that I created a template which is a blank document for Photoshop document for elements and one for papers, and I did that solely so that once I'm ready to save the file, it already has a file name in it. I have a zip file that contains my TOU. I put in a blank rich text RTF document so I can do in my product description and keep that with my folder. So gather together anything that you want. Maybe you have an Instagram ad or some sort of image for Pinterest, a sized ad for an image for Pinterest that you want to use, or even a blog ad that you might want to create at the time you're creating your product. Think out of the box here. Any kind of thing that you could use in your product, put it all together in one place. The only thing that you want to be sure that you do is that you want to name these files with the naming convention that you want Post Haste to use when it creates the product for you. So in my shop, we use designer name first, then obviously, a hyphen or an underscore, whatever it is you use. Then you want to make sure you have the word template, capital T, template, in there, and that is going to be replaced by your product name. So however that flow works in your shop, and then obviously, some description so you know what it is that you're working with. Here's my background master here. Here's my product preview. Here are those templates I told you on the elements. You're not limited to just one template, say for your background papers. Sometimes I make a super mini kit and there's only 4 papers. So I have a paper template that just has those 4 that I clip my papers to. You can add as many here as you want to. They'll all pre-populate into your product and then you'll just have them all handy, or you can just choose to add the ones that you use most often. But that's the first step. Gather up all the kinds of files, templates that you're going to want Post Haste to use, and just make sure that you name them so that anything that should be named with your product name has the word template in the place where you need the product name to go. Now let's go into Post Haste. The first thing we need to do is make a few changes to the preferences. On a Mac, you just come up to Post Haste and choose Preferences. On a PC, it's probably under Edit Preferences. On the first pane here under General, You may or may not want to check these boxes. I chose to do that, but take a look at these. One says once the Post Haste is run and created the product for you, open that folder, which is what I have it set to do. The other says close Post Haste once it's done that for you. There's notifications and alerts if your system supports that, and to show recent projects. Those are things that you can make a decision on whether or not you want to use. You also want to come into project, and you want to tell it where to put the finished folder once it creates your product folder. I have a work in progress folder that everything goes into before I've actually uploaded to my shop, so that's what I navigated to and put here. Another option is also this strict naming. This will prevent you from accidentally naming your file with a character that Mac is a lot more forgiving, but Windows is very much more particular. You can't use spaces, and you can't use, for the most part, any symbols. So it prevents you from putting those things in your name. And then the most important thing here is automatically rename files template to the project name. Remember I told you those files need to have the word template in them? This is what's going to allow Post Haste to make Post Haste most useful and replace template with your product name. So be sure you check that. And we're not going to be using the date format, but go ahead and feel free to choose whatever date format you want. The next thing we're going to do is come over here to parameters. And because Post Haste is set up to work for all different kinds of projects, and you'll see that in a second, comes pre-populated with a lot of things that I'm not going to use, but it comes with it's got a lot of variables here that we don't need to use. And just because I found them confusing, I get rid of these variables that I don't use. So project number and minus, and it gives me a little warning. I got rid of client. I leave project name because that's going to be your kit name. I don't add the date to my products, and I don't need my name added as Vicky. So I delete that. So the only thing that's left here is the project name. And I just checked this little box here that says cannot be empty, because I don't want to accidentally go through this whole process and somehow not end up with a product name on it. So that's it in the product preferences. We can close that. The first tab is the new project tab, and you might recall this is the tab that I came to when we actually ran Post Haste, so that's where you do that. The templates tab is where we put together the collection of templates that are going to comprise that folder structure that you see. And here you see it's defaulted to the one on top. That's my kit. This is what my folder structure for the kits that I make. This is what it actually looks like within Post Haste. You see that there's a bunch of others here. These are the samples that come pre-installed on Post Haste. I don't pay any attention to them. If they bug you, you can just go ahead and delete them. But we're going to add a new one here so I can show you how easy it is to actually set this up. I'm just going to come down here to the plus sign. I'm going to add a new one, and we're going to call this demo product on the left side. So here we are in demo. The first thing I would like to have happen for me is I want to add a folder for, let's say, my CT layouts. So I'm going to add the plus sign here, and I'm going to say new folder, and I'm going to say CT layouts. I'm not going to put anything in that, but now I'm going to add a folder for my product previews. If you're on a PC, you wouldn't have that, but I'm just going to put previews here. Now into product previews, oops, sorry about that. Into product previews, I'm going to come over into my Finder, and I'm going to come to that Post Haste folder that I created with my templates in it, and I'm going to come down to my product preview, and I'm just going to drag this into product previews. See, it put it underneath there in product previews. Oops, didn't. I lied. Mac makes me confirm that I really do want to do this. Okay, now I did. Now here's my product preview. And I also had my paper preview. So I'm going to add that in there as well. That's all there is to it. Let's see, what else did I have here? Let's come over here and look at my kit. My PSD folders. So I'm going to add, now I keep a separate, all the PSDs of my elements and my papers, I keep them in one folder called PSD. So if you don't do that, obviously you're setting this up to suit yourself. There are my PSDs. And in this case, I wanted to drag in the element PSD that I created, the TIFF file, that's the blank document, which remember I did only for ease in naming my files when they're done, and then PSDs, my backgrounds. What else do we have here? I need my shop ads, and this was the most important part here as well. This is the folder where my finished elements would go. So this is already named, the naming convention of the files that are going to be zipped for uploading. So let's do that as well. So I'm going to add my, what did I say I needed? I'm going to do my ads and social media. And I had that over here as well. Drop that on top. And then I wanted to add a folder down here. Actually wanted it at this level. And I'm going to say a new folder called V Robinson. Remember I said wherever the word template is, the word template is going to be replaced with your product name. So I'm just going to say template. And I'm going to say elements. And then I'm going to just, oops, did not want that to happen. I'm going to just duplicate this. Oops, it ended up in the wrong place. It's because I wasn't clicked at this level here. I'm just going to drag this down, put it down here. I'm going to actually duplicate this, right mouse click on it and duplicate that. And then I'm going to rename this. Oops, click on it to rename it. And I'm going to call this backgrounds. If I could type backgrounds. Now there's nothing going to be in here. This is just my folder structure for my product. So I'm not actually going to put any templates in there. There's nothing to go in there. And what else did I have over here? I have my TOU. So back in my demo product, making sure I'm clicked on the left hand side over here, I'm going to drag my TOU zip over here. And then there's one more thing. Remember I told you that I create a blank rich text format, say that 3 times fast, RTF document, so I can put my product description. And I don't even need to create that one from scratch. I can come down here and I can just choose RTF from here. And I'm going to name this, in this case, this doesn't go anywhere. I'm just going to say product description. And actually, maybe if I'm smart, I can type, I really can. And maybe I will put template so that it replaces it with my product name description. And that's really it, folks. So create a folder if you want a folder. Once you're in the folder, you can drag and drop whatever files you want in there. And you know, as I said, once you've used this once or twice, you realize how quickly it does things for you. Go ahead and put your Instagram template in there, or your Pinterest template, or even if you change your header on your Facebook page, go ahead and put that template in here. Now we're ready to go ahead and try this out. Come to new project. We're using Kit is the one that I created before, but this is our demo product here, the one we've just created. Change this name to so very cool. I really can't type. I know it doesn't seem like it. I really can't type. So very cool. Create project. Here it is. Is that not the coolest thing in the world? The product is called Post Haste, and you can find it at digitalrebellion.com.